We say it all the time without even thinking about it. I am. But what if, just what if, those two simple words were the actual root of all our stress and anxiety? Today, we're digging into a 2,500-year-old idea that says exactly that. Let's get into it.
I mean, really think about it. That little pang of envy you feel scrolling through your phone, that wave of insecurity that hits you at work, where does that stuff actually come from? Well, this ancient idea we're exploring points the finger at one simple, seemingly obvious thought. I am.
All right, to really get to the bottom of this, we're going to have to put on our detective hats. We're taking a trip back in time, way back to the era of the Buddha, to look at one very specific, very powerful word in the ancient Pāli language.
Okay, so the word is asmi. And here's where things get really fascinating. The first part, asmi, just means I am. Simple, right? But it's that little ending, iti, that changes the whole game. It kind of works like putting quotation marks around the phrase. So we're not just talking about existing, we're talking about the thought, I am, the concept itself. And you're probably thinking, so what? That seems totally harmless. But according to this philosophy, that little thought is just the tip of a massive, treacherous iceberg. And we're about to see what's really lurking under the surface. So how does this totally innocent thought become such a huge problem? Well, it all kicks off with something we do every single day, probably every single hour: comparison.
Our mind is just a relentless comparison machine. The moment the thought I am pops into your head, it almost never just stops there. It immediately starts looking for something to measure against. I am what? I am compared to who? You see this all over social media, of course, but also at work, even with your own family. The thought I am is never enough on its own. It always has to become I am better than, I am worse than, or I am just as good as. And this table just nails how it all plays out. The source texts break it down into three main categories. First up, superiority, I am better. We all know that one. Then inferiority, I am worse. Yep, been there. But here's the really sneaky one. I am the same. You'd think that's the healthy one, right? But it's still a form of comparison. You're still defining yourself by measuring against someone else. So all three, better, worse, and same, they're all just different rooms in the same trap. So if the thought I am is the engine that drives all this comparison, what's its fuel? What keeps this whole thing running? Where does this constant need to define ourselves even come from? Well, the answer is kind of surprising. It's not something we're just born with, it's something we build. The ancient texts are crystal clear on this point. The thought I am comes from one thing and one thing only: attachment. The Pali word for it is upadaya, which literally means to grasp or to cling to something. Attachment to what, you ask? To the very building blocks of our experience, what are known as the 5 aggregates. Now that sounds complicated, but it's just our body, our feelings, pleasure, pain, our perceptions of the world, our thoughts and intentions, even our basic awareness. We grab onto all these things that are constantly changing and we say, that's me, that's who I am. And in that very moment of clinging, the thought I am is born. The connection here is totally direct. A famous scripture puts it perfectly. Because of attachment, I am occurs, not without attachment. It's a straight-up cause and effect relationship. No clinging, no I am. Simple as that. This completely flips our normal ideas about self-improvement on their head. The goal isn't to build a better, stronger, more awesome I. The real goal is to see that this I is just a mental habit, a construction, and to then just let that construction gently dissolve. And what's left when that I thought finally fades? This quote gives us a hint. It's not like you disappear, it's liberation. Just imagine the incredible freedom of not having to constantly define yourself, defend yourself, and compare yourself all day long. That's the profound freedom we're talking about here. Okay, so we've seen how I am leads to comparison, and we know that it's fueled by attachment. So now let's put all the pieces together to really understand the final, deepest meaning of asmīti. The texts use this word māna, which gets translated as conceit. Now, when we hear conceit, we think of arrogance, right? But here, it means something way deeper. It's like a fundamental misperception of reality, a core delusion that there's some solid, separate me in here running the show. And asmīti is the voice of that delusion. And this delusion is like an onion. It's got layers. On the surface, you have the active thought, the conceit itself. Peel that back and you find chando, which is the deep desire for there to be an I. We really want to exist as a separate thing. And then, at the very core, you've got anasayo, this deep, dormant tendency that is incredibly difficult to uproot. It's like the root of a weed that keeps sprouting, even when you think you've cleared the whole garden.
So this is the crucial takeaway. We started this journey with a simple two-word phrase, and we followed it all the way down to its core. Asmīti is the firm, deep-seated attachment to the idea of a self. It is the fundamental mistake from which all comparison, pride, insecurity, and delusion really grow. And this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The texts actually show how this single conceit of I am becomes the launchpad for at least 18 different kinds of obsessive thinking. All that worrying about who you were in the past, or who you're going to be in the future, or if you even exist, all that mental noise starts right here.
So this ancient concept really isn't a history lesson. It's a mirror. So the next time you feel that surge of pride or that sting of insecurity, maybe you can just pause for a second and ask yourself, what am I clinging to right now? Where is this feeling of I really coming from? And that is the powerful question asmīti leaves us with.